Welcome back. I'm Anastasia, and my mission is to build a community of acceptance and authenticity. I needed some adventure buddies for this journey of insight, and I'm glad it's you. You are all welcome here, and I'm grateful that you decided to join me. Today, Hendrie is back on Insights with us so that we can celebrate and share in some news. Her third book of the Awfully Hilarious series is out. This book is called Pillow Talk. It is currently available for pre-order, and when this episode comes out, we should be just a couple days ahead of its official release. You should be able to get it anywhere. And if you don't have it at your local library or bookstore, please request it. It would mean so much to us. So you can pre-order it at tidewaterpress.ca, like for Canada, or you can find the link in my Instagram bio at Insights With Us Podcast. You can, like I said, you can ask your local bookstore or library to stock it, and you can find out more information about it at awfullyhilarious.com or on their socials at awfullyhilarious. Heather and I, in this episode, we celebrate this book. I share what it was like to be a part of the process because one of my stories got published in it. And we talk a whole lot about sex, eroticism, what it means to move at a pace that feels comfortable for you, making your own meaning. And I promise, in this book, there is a story for you wherever you are at in your journey. So let's get a little uncomfortable and do a whole lot of celebrating. And let's see if we can build some insight today. Before we get started, I do want to take a moment to thank my clothing partner, Occupied Mind. Occupied Mind's goal is to create a sanctuary of self-expression. Their belief is simple, yet profound. Everyone deserves to feel at home in their own skin. Everyone. And we share that dream, which is why I support them, and my closet is slowly turning into an Occupied Mind showroom. Use code INSIGHTSWITHUS15 at checkout to find a shirt that speaks your mind and bears your soul. Welcome back.
So good to be here. Look at us both in red for Valentine's.
Yes, if you want to see us in our matching outfits, join us on Substack or YouTube. Otherwise, I'm glad that you're here listening in audio at least. I am here with Heather, who is the beautiful creator and genius behind the Awfully Hilarious series. And we are going to talk about the third book in the series, Pillow Talk. We both have our copies everywhere. And I'm so excited to break it down and process everything with you today. But before we get started, I wanna ask you if you've had a moment of joy, peace, calm this week that you'd like to share.
Oh, I truly experienced a moment of joy last night with a couple of the fellow contributors in this project, Kate Heskett and Pierre-Olivier Gaudreau. We went to a kickoff party for Pride Whistler Ski Week, and it was at this pub, and we were there with our Pillow Talk books and our Foreplay chapbook, and people were thrilled about it. And over the speakers comes on Madonna's song, like a prayer, and I just started dancing. And Kate Heskett was in this epic one-piece shining bodysuit, and it was just a very joyful moment of completion and connection and community, and everyone was dancing, and we had a rainbow tablecloth. It was just beautiful. So that's my moment of joy carrying me through today. How about you?
Completion, community, connection. I feel like
Yeah.
that is just a perfect theme for everything we're about to talk about. And just, oh, I love it so much. I'm sinking into it. Mine, as always, has to do with Juliet. She's amazing. I love her.
Aw.
And something that she recently started doing, she was not a big cuddler when she was younger. And as she's getting older, she's getting really into cuddling. And she wakes me up every morning by doing like a paw stretch onto my chest.
Oh.
And this morning she did that. And then instead of like, hey, get up, let's go, she actually wedged herself in between me and my body pillow and like tacoed herself, basically. And then just like laid there with her face like smushed up against the pillow.
Oh.
And I do have a picture of it. I took a picture, so I'll post it on my Instagram when this podcast comes out. So I'll text it to you so you can see it early. But yes, I literally laid in bed for an extra 20 minutes just so I could have that experience with her. And it just made my day.
Yes. That's so beautiful. That's all the things right there. The peace, the joy, the calm. The
Yes,
cuddle.
everything, just like a big exhale. Speaking of, just need a second to breathe. Okay, so I would love for you to break down pillow talk and foreplay.
Okay,
What are
here we
we talking
go.
about?
Here we go. So, Pillow Talk, the third in the Awfully Hilarious series, all stories of intimacy, pleasure, and desire, with obviously an amazing contribution from yours truly, Anastasia. Just wait for it. So good. And not only is it on in a paperback and in an ebook, but you can actually hear Anastasia read her own story because we've got our audiobook also launching Valentine's Day. Well, so Angelina, my co-curator, is the one who came to me with the idea and said, "It's amazing we were talking about menstruation and dating and bodily functions, and it's really important that we talk about sex. We really need to talk about sex and pleasure as revolution. And perhaps this is perhaps one of the most taboo topics out there, the erotic, the sensual." And so, inspired by Angelina, we at Awfully Hilarious, we put out a call for submissions. And I always find it funny to say a call for submissions when it's a book about sex. Anyway, we got a lot of
Yes.
fantastic submissions, and this book is different in that the first two Awfully Hilarious anthologies I self-published, and this one was picked up by trade publisher Tidewater Press. And we worked with a fantastic editor, Darcy. And in this book, we have a collection of incredible prose. This is Pillow Talk I'm holding up. But we are also given submissions of poetry, and it was determined they were so beautiful they should get a whole book of their own, along with a few really potent essays and other stories. So I'm holding up a copy of Foreplay and Awfully Hilarious Tease, which is our homemade chapbook to accompany Pillow Talk. How's that for a little intro?
I love it. I love it so much. I have so many thoughts. Um, I think my first question though is how you chose the order for the stories. Because the first story, Menage a Moi, it was so like short and succinct and adorable and raw and vulnerable all at the same time. And I'm like, this was the perfect story to start with. And I'm curious how that decision making process went.
Oh, I'm so glad that felt like the right opener for you. And actually, I can't take credit for the story order. So Angelina and I have been very involved in collecting submissions and going through the process of which submissions are really highlighting the stories that really need to be in the book. And I will honor, we received so many beautiful submissions that we couldn't print in these books. And I do hope they see the light of day and continue to submit because it's all important work. But it was actually Lynn Duncan and Kilmany at Tidewater Press who made the decisions in the end about which order. One thing I'll speak to as a therapist, and I know, Anastasia, you resonate with this as a trauma therapist, is that one thing really important to us that we did weigh in on was that there be a little bit of a flow to the book in that, as you know, the Awfully Hilarious project is not just all knee-slapping funny. There's a lot of, quite poignant, painful, even traumatic moments, and so we wanted to balance the experience for the reader, that there would be humor and breath, and we might navigate between some more difficult moments and then some more playful, light experience, like Ménage à Moi, for example, as an opener, seems like a really good fit. But as far as the story order, that credit where credit is due, that certainly goes to Tidewater Press.
Well, and I appreciate that you fought for that
Mm.
because, especially since my story is a little bit more vulnerable, it is a little bit more raw, but I submitted it with the explicit reason of this isn't something people talk about.
Right.
And for those that haven't read my story yet, because the book hasn't come out yet, but it is available for pre order, it is me opening up about having vaginismus, which is basically painful vaginal canal and not really being able to enjoy anything the way most people would when it comes to sex or intimacy or even just like using a tampon. It hurt my whole life. And it's not something anybody talked about to the point that I just thought that I was broken somehow and nobody could help
Mhm.
me after going to doctor after doctor after doctor who told me that they couldn't help me. And so my story is about that, but also me finding my voice and realizing that there is a way to navigate it. There is a way to heal it. And a lot of it is empowerment and trusting myself. So, very powerful story that if it was just about slapstick humor, my story wouldn't have fit the bill.
I'm so grateful for your story. I'm so glad you're sharing it, and this is probably something you speak about as a therapist, but this idea that we, with work and time and maturity and wisdom and a lot of support, we become the person we always needed. Imagine as a young teen, you'd had the opportunity to read your own story. I would just get goosebumps about all the years of pain you may have not had to navigate, or if you were still navigating, that you'd know, A, it's not your fault. B, you're not alone. There's a lot there. So I love your story, Anastasia, and when you submitted that and sent that in, I just thought, like, absolutely, there's not even a question. This is a big part of it. And that is something interesting we get as commentary back about the Awfully Hilarious project. When it first began, as a series of online dating misadventures, but then other stories came in where people had had really difficult and painful experiences. Early response was, "Oh, I was expecting something hilarious." But what
Mhm.
we skimmed over was the awful. And so these really are about stories of trauma to transcendence using humor as a tool to help pendulate that experience, to help titrate that a little bit, to help bring a little breath where there may not have been. So I really find the humor is actually like a very potent, vehicle for it, if that makes sense. It can bring in a lot of play, a lot of connection, but yes, you might experience tears reading these stories, but then you might also get to laugh, and both of those things honor and support our nervous system and help us connect as human beings to some of the harder stories.
Yeah, and I wanna if you're okay with that, I wanna share a
Sure.
little bit about my experience doing
Please,
this
I'd
because
love to know anything about what it was like to write it, what it's been like to share it, to go through having it edited, please.
transcendent, I think, is the word.
Mm,
You use that, and it was such a healing experience to go through this process. And I remember when you came on to advertise period pieces and, you talked about this journey that the authors went on, the journey of talking about the pain and then eventually coming to this other side of maybe there's humor here. Maybe we can heal in this together. And once we finished recording, you're like, "Hey, I'm doing this other thing. You should submit a story." That was literally the first time I wrote that down.
wow.
And I just went, "Here it is on a page." And you were such a safe person. And I
Mm,
could feel it that I was like, "I'm going to send this to you just basically unedited and see what you think." And you came back with such a kind space of,
mm.
"This is beautiful. This is powerful. I can't believe you shared this with me. Thank you so much." That I then turned around and I read it out loud to my partner and just bawled
Oh,
my
wow.
eyes out. Just like, I've never said this out loud. I've never written this down. And now I've shared it with two people. And it was all pain and fear and vulnerability. And like, this is stuff that I've never really admitted, even though I've gone through it. And like, yeah, I've healed it. I've never healed the story itself.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
giving me goosebumps. I'm really curious. Also, I'd love for you to share the list with the listeners, the title of your story if you're up to it. But really curious what your partner's response was and then how that was for you to share and receive his response.
He was amazing. Just like how I describe him in the book, he was
Mhm.
safe. He was like, proud of me. He held me. He
Mhm.
supported me. He comforted me. Like there was zero shame and only acceptance. Um, and the original title of my story actually got changed by the editors. They pushed for it. So it is now called Ending Lockdown, which has a little bit of play, which I really appreciate. I did decide, I was like, yeah, no, I like this a lot. But basically, like ending the lockdown of the tightness that I had to go through. But also, a lot of the healing happened during the pandemic when I was literally locked down with somebody who, though a very kind person, was not able to hold space for me and just kind of made that vaginismus
And I
worse.
mean, up to you, but I'm really curious if you are up for sharing the original title and then what it was like to work with an editor who suggested a change, like what it's been like to have others hold your story as it starts to become more and more public, moving from that interior realm a bit further out.
Mhm. Um, Trying to remember the exact, it was, no pain, all gain, right?
Which I have to say
Because
I love.
yeah, because the story I mean, the original saying is no pain, no gain, where it's like, if there isn't pain, you're not going to get anywhere, which
And
like I do say,
we as therapists don't like that very much, do we?
I will say that I do say growth happens in the discomfort a lot.
Mhm.
And I stand by that because I had to get really uncomfortable to heal myself and to like work through accepting that some parts of me can't be healed. And it's just who I am. But no pain, all gain, because I finally figured out what it meant to not have pain and to be able to just have pleasure and just have fun and not participate if there's even a chance of pain and be fully accepted for who I am. And yeah, it was just this like journey that I've been on that I got to write down. And then through the editing process, there was definitely some moments of like, hey, your story is all vulnerable and there's not the humor yet. Like, you tried, but like, read it back for me, please, and see if you can have any humor in this at all. And I like read through it. I'm like, I could see the places where humor was trying to shine through,
Mhm.
but it was still so painful
Yeah,
that the humor wasn't there yet.
of course, yeah.
And over the editing process, my like sassy, sarcastic self came out hardcore. And I, when I was recording for the audiobook, I actually practiced it and like reread it out loud like 12 to 15 times because there were certain parts I couldn't not laugh during. So I had to desensitize myself to my own story. So I stopped laughing while I was
I
recording.
wanna hear the version of you laughing. Bring it. Just
So yeah, no, like when you say that it is healing through laughter, 100% my experience.
Mm.
From pain, I'm bawling my eyes out because I finally admitted this was my story, to wanting all of the people in my life to read it because I was so proud of the fact that this book
Oh,
came out.
Anastasia, wow. Wow, wow, wow.
So I feel like I'm interviewing myself now and you're interviewing me. So let's shift it again.
Well, and also, I think there's a real, collaborative element here because you are a professionally published writer with a story in Pillow Talks.
Yes, I am. It is both of us here advertising this. I am the author,
Mhm.
you are the brilliant creator. And I'm so grateful to be a part of this journey with you and with all the other authors. I think I would love to hear more about your campaign through
Mhm.
this process because so I shared my unboxing video and it was like instant 200 likes. I'm over here like, oh my God, this awfully hilarious community is big. What is going on? Like, you're doing amazing. You're winning awards. Like, tell me more about what this has been like for you.
I've been blown away. Something that brings me the greatest joy, you might have actually seen it. Nicole Bright, who has a story in the book, posted something last week about how she was just reading Samar's story, another contributor, and how much it meant to her and how much she loved it. And then seeing Samar's response to Nicole loving her story. There's just an absolutely incredible sense of support here. Like, I really feel that what's been built here is a small but mighty community that's really connecting through vulnerability, through writing, through humor, and that are really here to help one another hold and midwife these stories as they are birthed into the world. Because in every story, there's pain. There's some moment there was something that was withheld at some point in our lives because it felt somehow too embarrassing, too painful, too shameful, too taboo, or for some reason it would break a rule to express what was going on. And so many people here writing for the first time, sharing these stories for the first time, as you said, I think we all really are honoring one another through that process and uh, bearing witness to the courage it takes to do that. Because there are other great books out there about sex. There are amazing works out there. But something so unique about this is that, for the most part, people have put their own name to their own story, and it's extraordinarily courageous at any time to get vulnerable, and I really see that sort of vulnerability as leadership, but I do really see this beautiful community that is woven together of I think just contributors seeing one another and then readers seeing us and holding us as we share these moments and saying like, "OMG, same, me too. I thought maybe I was the only one," or seeing that, "Oh my gosh, I've never had that experience, but I'm so grateful that you've had the courage to share your lived experience with me such that I may grow and increase in terms of my ability to show compassion and attune to other people who might be living different experience than I have."
Just you're surrounding yourself in this community of love and acceptance.
Yeah.
And yes, we can see you as you are.
Yes. Yes.
That is
Yeah.
so beautiful. Did you imagine that this is the community that you were going to build when you
Never.
started the first Awfully Hilarious book?
Never. Never, ever. I mean, I come from English Scottish roots, which not so much in my family, but historically the rules are to suffer in silence and we don't talk about the bathroom stuff. And like in my house growing up, we would never even say the word fart. It's much more polite to say dude. So, and we don't say but. That was too rude. We would say bum. So for me to have
Jules is making an
she's
appearance.
here,
I,
Juliet, I just
oh,
see like this like furry little ear. Aw, that face. I feel so sad for the listeners who can't see those beautiful deep eyes right now.
you
And
should join the video if you want to.
yes, please do it. My right with that, actually, my little cat Chunga just cruised by in the background.
Jules usually gets session treats during the day. And so she's like, "You're
Oh,
still on your computer? Excuse me, I deserve my treat." Yes.
oh, it's
Sorry.
beautiful.
Yes. So you grew up in a family where you didn't talk about stuff and you
Yeah, and
just
not
suffered
even
in
so much
silence.
family, but also, I mean, they're just cultural differences too. Like Canadian cultural families have different cultures. We have contributions from people who've grown up in all different cultures, and the rules and taboos are quite different across the board. But it's quite shocking that I've been involved in this because I, for many, many years, was really quite shy and closed about a lot of anything to do with bodily functions. Certainly about menstruation, which is a whole conversation in itself, and if you wanna hear more about that
Of
awfully hilarious period
course.
piece, this is a good start, but, I mean, I'm writing a whole memoir on that subject right now, which, again, I never spoke openly ever about menstruation, and meanwhile, here I am, like, writing several books on the subject. So, I no one's more surprised than me, but as we mentioned before, this idea that perhaps we become the person we always needed, I these are stories that I needed. This is a community that, I've always needed, and it brings me no greater joy than to see everyone rooting for one another. We've got Australian folks who've submitted, so the word rooting as relates to sex, you can hop on here and like, feel free to add a comment about what rooting means to you. But I've
Yes.
been delighted to see one another, the folks rooting for one another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which also, I want to throw something out there. If any Awfully Hilarious contributors are listening to this and want to come on and talk to me about their story or their journey or a piece of insight in their life, they are welcome to come on. Just
Oh, that
reach
would be
out to
so
me.
fun. Yes,
Yes.
yes.
I invite anybody that has a story to tell. So everyone is welcome here, just like anyone is welcome in Pillow Talk and in the Awfully Hilarious series. You really are bringing together a group of people. And, this idea of you never thought you would be the person to write these or be open about this in this way. But also at the same time, of course, it was you,
Mm, mm.
right?
Well, thanks, and it's so interesting if you look at, like, who has submitted the stories, everyone, whether they made it into the book or not, is and I shouldn't say the book is some sort of gauntlet, like, everyone who shared a story, these stories have to be told and heard, they're all so important, and it's no surprise to me that more than there are at least 3 of the writers and contributors to this book are therapists. A number of people, still on these pages are emerging authors being published for the very first time. And there's just such a range of experience being represented on these pages. It doesn't cover the full spectrum of experience because that would just not be possible. But there is a really diverse offering of stories. And when I speak to the stories that were chosen versus not, we were always really looking to amplify and prioritize a diversity of stories and perhaps stories that had not been heard elsewhere before or the voices that might have historically been more marginalized. So that's sort of the criteria we used as far as decision making about what stories to include, if that makes sense. But it's such an incredible community of people. That's what's brought me the most joy and delight throughout the project, actually, is really, really witnessing the courage of the people who've come forward and the courage of the readers who've reached out to say thank you or to support in various ways because a book and the writing is only so much as the reading and the telling and the receiving of it. So I'm just thinking about the moment of you and your partner sharing and being heard. There's such a gift we offer through listening, through reading. It's not just the act of the writing that it's where we meet in the middle of sharing something vulnerable and then being seen and heard. What a gift.
What a gift. It is one of the biggest healing moments.
Yeah.
And just being able to say, not just I see you, but like I understand.
Yeah.
Even if I haven't gone through it myself, like I feel that.
Mhm, mhm.
And, I'm just thinking about this idea of the willingness to witness, like the
Yeah.
willingness to sit, the willingness to be vulnerable, but the willingness of the reader to
Yeah.
engage.
Yes.
And I think there's a lot of fear and uncertainty around subjects like this, but also just in the world in general right now
Mhm.
that need to be witnessed.
It does, and, it's funny because there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of edginess, and, something I really love that Kilmeny did with Tidewater Press, she designed the covers, took from, our amazing designer, Ken Braithwaite, mocked something up that was incredible, and working with Angelina Jimenez, the co-curator, but then Kilmeny played with it and took this cover and made something quite in a lot of ways, it's quite playful, like, the font, the feathers, almost gives this sense of, like, a pillow fight, which I quite love because a lot of books that have to do with sex have, have a cover that you might not feel necessarily as comfortable with having on your bedside table, or there might be something where it's somehow a bit more obvious that it's an edgier type of material, whereas our whole our whole intent with the humor and the design and the way that we, share this work is to make it approachable. And of course, there's in the beginning, and I'm so thrilled this was brought to my attention as a good idea to do by my another friend of mine, a beautiful writer named Lene Osti. The idea that why don't books like movies have a rating system and a little bit of a heads up about what the content is? So
Yeah.
on the first pages, we have a heads up like, hey, this is
Mhm.
adult content and you might experience, feel free to read it out if you want to share what it is. But we do want, we,
Oh,
with caveats about allowing readers to support themselves and choose appropriate material, we want it to be approachable. We want it to be fun because that just breathes breath into really hard moments, and to be fair, some of these are not hard moments at all, they're just really hilarious things that happen in the realm of sex, like, I don't know if you've read, Jeffrey Graves' story yet, but when he's talking about his sex ed class when he was, in elementary school and
and
how
how like
awful his
unhelpful it
teacher was.
is.
Oh, it was just so amazing, and then we go into deeper things like, at the back of Foreplay, for example, the position of this is perfect. It ends with the real happy ending, thanks to Erica Otto, who's, also a trauma practitioner, and it's just beautiful piece about consent and the way that we talk about sex in our society, and a lot of the books that you and I would have been exposed to growing up that had held erotic or sexual content, very rarely was there an exploration of consent. Very rarely was it at all empowering to characters who hold any form of oppressed identity in our culture. So
Well, and I don't know if you remember this about me from all the times we talked, because I grew up in the Middle East and Southeast
I
Asia.
do. I sure do.
So none of those books would have made the shelves where I grew up.
No. Well, I'm
Did
so
not talk
curious.
about
That's a whole
anything.
other conversation about what your exposure was to sexy books or to conversation about sex growing up where you grew up.
In the Middle East, none. Zero. You don't even look at a person of that you might be sexually attracted to, like nothing at all. Doesn't exist. Indonesia, I moved back there when I was in 10th grade, year 11. And basically, it was the first time that a sex ed class, like a health class, talked about sex. And I remember just being in awe of like, wait, people are talking about this? Wait, is this allowed? Wait, you have
Mm.
condoms in school?
Yeah.
Like, why is no one freaking out? And everybody was just acting like it was normal. And I'm like, this is so beyond what was normal for me, which was it didn't exist. Your body doesn't exist. Ignore it at all
Wow.
costs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I went from that to being a sex educator in college with friends who would put the condoms over their heads
That's
to
amazing.
prove that, like, it's not too small.
I want a picture. Do you think you could get a picture of that to us also?
Uh,
We need a photo of Juliet and of the condoms on the head.
you can also get it all the way down your arm.
That's amazing.
So if they say they're too big, I promise you, you don't want anything to do with them if that's true. So if I had one, I would just right here on camera.
That's
Maybe
amazing.
that's something I'll set up and send to you so you can add it to the promos.
Could you like, I really want that. And actually, you could just slingshot some condoms around the place. We're using codename
Blow it up as a balloon.
Carnation for some of our readings, actually. We're going to have
I actually used to have to make condom roses. So you
oh,
would take 5 to 6 condoms and a pencil and like basically tape it around as a condom rose. And we used to
oh.
hand them out at events.
Oh my gosh, do you think you could do a little DIY, some
Mhm.
sort of a little reel on how to make those? I was
Yeah.
picturing that you'd like blow them up and use them like, magic balloons when they make like a little dachshund out of balloons. Like you blow it up and twist it in certain ways and it turns into a
We
rose.
used to
We could
make
do that
condom
too.
balloons at our events as well.
Okay. Okay, we actually need that for our readings.
Yeah, I'll do a whole video for you on it. But yeah, I remember one spring break because I was the sex coordinator one year for college. So for spring break, right ahead of the GYT Get Yourself Tested campaign, I had to be in charge of prepping everything. So I came home from university with bags of condoms,
Yes,
got
yes,
home, looked at my family, and then just dumped them out on the dining room
yes.
table. And I
Also,
had like
like,
a
that
thousand
job title,
condoms.
like, you were the sex coordinator of the college, I'm like, that you could do write up a whole other description that was not the job description you actually did. That would
No.
be so interesting.
Yes, that would also be very funny. Just like my old jobs, it's fun.
That's so good.
But I
I was
mean,
just thinking of one other thing that as you're talking, something I love about Pillow Talk is, and we play with the order of the stories thanks to the team at Tidewater, but there's really opportunity to meet different people where they're at. Like, you might love 5 of the stories and then 2 of them just, like, don't resonate for you in this moment, and in a year's time, you might pick it up and be like, "Oh, yeah, I really needed that one right now." Like, that's what's quite fun, I think, about an anthology and short stories. They're different voices, different experiences, and really, hopefully, there'll be something to meet you where you're at in this moment, right?
well, and bringing it back to the content note, I do want to read it out loud for a very
Oh, yes,
specific
please
reason.
do.
So, the content note at the beginning of the book is grown up themes ahead, intimacy, desire, and vulnerable bits. Not for younger readers. Read gently at your own pace.
Mm,
That is so important because that right there gives the reader the ability to consent to the book and
mm,
consent to the story. And even though it's unintentional, when you start a book, there's the expectation that you're going to finish it.
right.
And people always talk about like, oh, my to be read is too long, or oh, I just can't finish this book. I have to force my way through it. It's like, no, put it down. Go pick up
Right.
something else. Get back to it if you want to, or don't.
No, and,
There's
it's
no
interesting
pressure.
'cause before we started recording, you and I were also talking about the pace at which we're reading this, and this is the sort of thing that you could just gobble up in a night. And also, I really feel like there's a real beauty in exploring this as a sensual experience. Like I keep touching the cover and I keep looking at it and putting it in different places around the house. And I'm savoring the stories one by one by one. And I really am loving that process actually. And that's not generally how I read a book, but it feels like that's very much the energy and intent of this work, if that makes sense.
And the energy and intent of the act. Like,
Yes.
have
Yeah.
fun and take it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you want to devour the whole thing, and sometimes you want to do bits and pieces and take your time with it.
Which,
And
by the way, I don't know if you'll appreciate this, but I've got a whole box of like hundreds of copies of Foreplay, and I'm just like, there's just never enough foreplay. We need more foreplay.
more foreplay. There's never enough foreplay. And oh my God, I think it is Esther Perel, one of her books. She talks about how when you first connect with someone, you feel like everything is spontaneous, but it's because the tiny little acts of foreplay are so common when you first meet somebody versus much later down the line. If you're with somebody for 10 years, you're not going to think about like touching their butt every time you go by.
Ooh, okay, like what?
Or
Walk me through this step by step. I want to like let's slow that down. I want to understand this even more. It's
yeah.
a
So, like, when you
concept, but I
first
want
meet somebody and there's that strong connection, like, you're going to text them all the time and you're going to check in and you're going to do like flirty texts and fun tests and like, I want to get to know you texts.
yeah, yeah.
And when you're hanging out on a date, like, you can't help but hold hands or you just
Oh,
want to put your arms around each other. And it's not even sexual acts, but you're constantly flirting and connecting and having all these moments.
mm,
And it's so beautiful and it's so natural that when you do get to sex, you've already been feeding the meter, if you will,
Right.
and you're more ready to go. And then it feels spontaneous, but it never actually is. It's just that you're already adding to it throughout your day.
Wow.
And then later in life, if you've been with somebody for an extended period of time, feeding the meter, if you will, kind of stops.
Mm,
You're not as flirty. You don't check in the same way. You're not constantly wanting to hold each other and touch each other and enjoy each other in that way. So
mhm,
then when you go to have a sexual act, you haven't fed the meter. It's going to be a lot harder to change gears, especially if
mm,
you add kids to the mix. Oh my God, people who are in parent mode and then it's like they close the door and they expect to just suddenly be in the mood.
mhm,
Like you
mhm,
can't just change hats that fast.
mhm.
You really got to almost like breadcrumb the intimacy throughout your days so
Right.
that when you have that moment where you could have that form of connection, you're kind
Mhm.
of ready to go.
Do you know what is so interesting? I love that analogy, and obviously Esther Perel, her brilliance. I'm so grateful for her brilliance in this world. But I imagine I don't know because that is my experience. I'm like always more foreplay. The more, the better. Like I want hundreds of foreplay, hundreds of foreplay.
Mhm.
So I'm playing with all the puns here, but I think, but maybe some people don't need that. My partner doesn't seem to need that. And at the same time, so I play with like the metaphor. I'm like, okay, picture over here, we're dealing with a diesel engine, not an e-bike or an electric car that accelerates at this pace. Like my rate of it, there's needs to be a little bit of time for things to warm up. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. I'll take that to
S-
think about it.
Something that I always say as a trauma therapist who specializes in complex trauma within intimacy and relationships,
Mhm, mhm.
we all have different sex drives
Right.
or needs, or how we show up is going to be different because we're all different people. And it's not about what's happening internally for you. It's
Mm,
about the connection between you and your partner. That is
mhm,
unique and that is a shared moment. So I'm, a form of asexual. I'm a demisexual. So my sex drive is very low.
mhm,
Most of the time it's non-existent. My partner has a normal to thriving high sex drive. It doesn't matter if he's up here and I'm down here. We can accept and love each other no
mhm,
matter what.
mhm, mhm.
And then we decide what meeting in the middle looks like.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
And so he can have as high of a sex drive as he wants. He can talk to me about it. I will not take it personally because he is
Mhm,
allowed to do that. But
mhm.
he never pressures me.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
is what I talk about in my story a little bit. If for
Mhm.
people who want to read it, you should buy and pre-order Pillow Talk. But we have made our own meaning. And there's so many different types of intimacy where there's emotional intimacy and physical intimacy, which is non sexual, and intellectual intimacy, which is like connecting on topics of conversation. And there's sexual intimacy. So if you're thriving in everything, you can thrive in sexual intimacy without ever having sex, or at
Mm,
least penis to vagina sex, if that's your meaning in your
right.
relationship.
Right. So beautiful.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not about where you're at versus where your partner's at. It's how do we meet in the middle?
Right. Right.
And sometimes the middle is we're not doing it at all, but we feel super connected to each other. And that's great.
Mhm. And then I'm thinking about like if we look at the stories like Ménage à Moi, which is an exploration of our own sensuality and sexuality without a partner there, right? Where it's really us, and that's such a beautiful space to explore. And Nicole Bright says something really beautiful too about um, in her letters back and forth to Claire Sickerman in the book about it's their story tuning guitars and wet kisses. It's so excellent, like letters back and forth to one another through the experience of junior high and awakening sexuality, but the idea I have to give a shout out to their book Bloom, by the way, which is a whole compilation of these beautiful letters between friends through the hard
Love
stuff.
this.
It's so beautiful.
Mhm.
But Nicole speaks to the idea of like quoting Virginia Woolf on the idea of people needing a room of one's own, but needing space of one's own also to explore like what are your turn ons? What is foreplay for you? What is arousal for you? Like beginning to understand that for ourselves, that and maybe we like at some point we bring that forward in sharing with other people if we want to, if there's feels like the right place, or maybe we never do, but how yeah, just giving permission and space for
Mhm.
us to understand and
Yeah.
explore and have fun with it. It's yeah,
Well, and
it's
sometimes it
so
doesn't
free.
feel safe with another person, but
Right.
it does feel safe alone. And there
Right.
is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Yeah, in
Mhm.
fact, I think it's such a beautiful part of it and something I think about a lot, like, yes, our book speaks about sex, absolutely, but also thinking about the erotic, which might not be sex at all, but is about the feeling of a beautiful new lotion or the scent of an incredible new tea that you've got. There's so much about ourselves as erotic beings that in fact, that's why we start the book with a quote from Audre Lorde is just about the power of actually engaging with the erotic, that's an unstoppable
Taking a
primal.
bite into your favorite food when you haven't eaten in hours, like,
Exactly.
oh.
Exactly. Like, for me, what that would be right now, oh my goodness, I'm just like, "Oh, if I could just have a delicious bite full of mangoes with sticky rice with, like, coconut sauce dripping over it like a fresh mango, the sun on my face." That's so beautiful, right? This is so much of what it is to be alive and human, to enjoy, to
Okay,
take
I
purpose.
wanna, like, slow down just for a moment and allow for the juxtaposition of what we're talking about here,
Mm,
because when I was talking about the different ways it can show up, I literally said, "And you can have physical intimacy without it being sexual or erotic at all." Like, you can just be
mhm,
hugging and like,
yes.
cuddling on the couch, and it can be fully fine and just playful. And then you're over here like, "Let's not even talk about sex, like, anything can be erotic if you, like, love it enough," and just there's such a spectrum to any human
Right,
experience
right,
that eroticism doesn't have to be sex,
right,
and
right.
touch and physical intimacy doesn't have to be sex either.
No, I mean, I see Eros as like the far larger umbrella under which many different things fall. Like I experienced a beautiful erotic moment in the canyons. I was paddling down the Green River and I was just lying on a sun-baked rock along the canyon walls, this beautiful red rock, and I was just lying there, but pressed my body against the rock, and it was such an unbelievably beautiful sense of connection to something larger. Yet I would define it as erotic. There was something in that connection that felt I don't know how to I don't know how to go bigger than that except to say that, to quote Joanna Macy, the title of one of her books is World as Lover, World as Self, and I just so truly felt intimate with the world in that moment, if that makes sense.
I love that. I'm trying to think of how I would describe erotic. Like, if somebody were to say, "How do I know if I'm accessing eroticism?" Like,
Mhm.
what would they look for
Hmm.
or notice? Like, how would you be mindful with eroticism?
You're making me wanna do a real deep dive. I'm also wondering, though, if here we could go, if I could quote Audre Lorde from The Uses of the erotic as power.
Mhm.
Um And this is the quote we've chosen to use to open the book, which she says, "The bridge which connects the spiritual and the political is formed by the erotic, the sensual, those physical, emotional, and psychic expressions of what is deepest and strongest and richest within each of us being shared, the passions of love in its deepest meanings." So I take that to be much larger than sex, but that sex is one could perhaps be one, visible manifestation of that. That's how it lands for me.
I love that. The words that stood out to me there were strongest and passion.
Mm,
So anything where you are deeply passionate about something or care so deeply that you were kind of overcome by an emotion with it,
mhm.
that could be seen as a form of erotic.
I also for me, I think there's, a physicality to it. Because, for example, I'm very connected to the meaning of my work as a wilderness therapist, but I wouldn't use the word eros in that space, but somehow for me, it's the embodiment of a feeling that it somehow includes that connection to the physicality.
Yeah.
And that's where it's in these times of AI, et cetera. I think there's also so much power in that because what AI doesn't have a soul, doesn't have a body, doesn't have a nervous system. So there's something in this space that I think is so uniquely animate.
Yeah. And it's so deeply human, like deep in our souls, we are able to connect to
Yeah.
this
Yes.
and connect to each other on that deeper level. Because
Yeah.
again, we're willing to engage.
Yes.
And bringing back to kind of how it said proceed at your own pace,
Right.
you can join the community at your own pace.
Mm-hmm.
You can do this deeper work at your own pace.
Mm-hmm.
You can enjoy the book at your own pace. You can
Yes.
explore your body at your own pace. And I'm not saying that in necessarily just in terms of sex, but in terms of like somatic work, connecting your mind and your body together. That
Mm-hmm.
also doesn't feel safe for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for me, I was so disconnected from my body for so long that I think that was a part of the reason why my vaginismus was so bad. I
Right.
was so disconnected that I just tensed up and was like, nothing is safe. Don't go there. I used to set alarms because I didn't feel hungry
Mm.
and I was afraid I'd miss eating. And
Wow.
now, oh my gosh, if I'm even just like a little off on my meal, my body is screaming at me, like, excuse
Mm.
me, we have a schedule and we need you to take care of me.
Right.
Like,
Right. Right.
there's
You know,
so
that's so
much to be
when you
explored.
come back to vaginismus too, I'm just like, I'm thinking about an eros, and we're talking about um body as source of pain, and bodies as oppressed, and bodies as source of pleasure, and bodies as sovereign. And in these times we're living in right now, I find very deep importance in this conversation and in this book and in these stories. And in some ways this can be taken as a really fun and playful thing to have on your bedside table, or to listen on your way home from work on a Friday night. Um, and also I I see the courageous writers on these pages engaging in really beautiful acts of revolution, of telling the truth and speaking to the experience of their own bodies, whether it be pain and oppression, or whether it be pleasure and sensual connection to a whole different level of joy. I mean, in some ways, I might be making the book sound bigger than it is. It's a pretty small little book. It's like really little,
Well,
but
as an author for it, it felt pretty big as I was going through it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't want to dismiss it, because and again, I'm very close to it, but I'm so in awe of the courage of the folks who've come forward to share their stories. Yeah.
Well, and for the reader, it's an invitation to play,
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
invitation to go deeper, an invitation to maybe get a little bit uncomfortable, but laugh
Mhm.
along the way.
Mhm.
And I think that is something that I'm finding a lot of passion in right now. Of I want to remind people and support people that they can handle the discomfort.
Yes, yes.
Like if somebody's curious about this book, but maybe they've never read a book like this before, or they're hearing us talk about eroticism and like you're really uncomfortable as a listener, but like you want to know, you can go at your own pace.
Yeah,
You
and I
can
would
consent and remove consent at any time.
yes, yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's one thing that's quite unique about Foreplay is their poems, right? A lot of them are very brief, and yet poetry is so potent in that it can hold and transmit so much emotion and soul in so little time, so little space. So there's like beautiful little bites, like, oh my goodness, the poem in here, Dahlias by T.S. Lee they're just all so beautiful. But yeah, there's opportunity to engage with it for wherever you're at. And some things will really resonate, others may not resonate at all. Or you might come across something that you think, oh, this is so perfect for my friend who's navigating this right now, but it's not for me.
And there's no rush in it
Right.
either.
Right.
And oh man, if that's not an allegory for life, I don't know what is. So some things are going to resonate for you and some things aren't. And some things you might pay attention to and go, ooh, that'd be great for my friend, but
Yeah.
not for me. And you get to go at your own pace with all of it.
Mhm, mhm. My audacious goal for this is I just picture this being in a little library somewhere, and somebody walks down the street and finds this and picks it up and takes it home to bed and hears exactly what they need to hear that frees them just a little bit to take the next steps in whatever it is they need to take the next steps in. Wouldn't
Well,
that be beautiful? Can you imagine that happening with your story, Anastasia? I can see that happening.
yeah. Well, I can see that happening with some of your stories, like your memoir.
Oh, thank you.
Hmm.
I truly hope that it reaches people who need it at the time they need it
Yeah.
most.
So tell me a little bit more about maybe some of your other projects. Give a little plug for some of these other
Sure.
things that our listeners can look
Yeah,
forward
so this
to.
memoir we are alluding to is called I love that my publisher, Vicky at Caitlin Press, loved the sort of playful title I put under it in brackets. It was initially gonna be called Me and PMDD, but my playful, uh, thing I was adding in there was "Where the F is my red tent," and she took it and ran with it. So, said, "Where the F is my red tent," playing on Anita Diamant's, historical fiction from the '90s, of course, this reimagining of a biblical times red tent where, female-bodied people would come together and share their experiences around fertility and menstruation and sex, like, they share the secrets that they weren't allowed to share, publicly, and, of course, over the years, there have been many problems with these practices of, menstruating people being isolated during their times of menstruation. So these spaces have not always been safe, and people have died in these sorts of places. But
Mhm.
in the beautiful reimagining reclamation of it, this idea of where we can speak openly and share wisdom to help one another, that's the intent with my book, Where the F is My Red Tent. And, the real hope for it is that anyone who is struggling and navigating the experience of premenstrual dysphoric disorder and may not know it yet might see themselves in these pages and find their way through to really figuring out what is going on and to finding support through that with that wisdom. So that's something I'm working hard at over here that will be launching later this spring. And actually, I have to share with you, I mentioned Erica Otto, this amazing trauma support practitioner here in the Sea to Sky corridor where I live, who has the final story in Foreplay. I had said to her, "This is really hard to write a memoir on this subject. Like, where the f is my red tent? I need a red tent." And she said, well, now we shall build a red tent." And a beautiful photographer by the name of Brian Akins here locally, who generally shoots owls and orcas, came together to witness and hold space to engage in this ritual photography experience of female bodied folks in our community. And we'll be sharing an exhibit of that and creating a space where a number of different practitioners and members of the community can be in conversation around subjects that haven't been discussed as much: stigma around menstruation, prenatal and postnatal supports. So we'll be speaking with a number of different people in a circular format about things that just haven't had enough airtime. So that's
Really
what's happening
incredible.
on the side. Even as Pillow Talk is launching into the world, is that's my personal writing project at the moment.
Well, and truly incredible and powerful and inspiring. I mean, we started this conversation by saying, we're becoming the people we needed, but
Yeah.
truly we are.
Yes.
We are becoming people in this healing journey that are
Mm.
willing to speak up, willing to speak out, willing to increase the power of our voice to attempt to reach more people, so that just in case there's that one person in tiny town who needed to hear that story, they might be able to.
Yes, that's the hope. And that's where, I mean, it would be great if people buy books. It's even better if folks review them. But my real hope for this is that folks out there reach out to their library and ask the library to carry this book, because that's the hope, is that this be physically accessible. Like, we're using the humor to make it somewhat more accessible content wise, but I really want it to be physically accessible for folks.
Mm,
Anyone who needs it.
I think that would be amazing.
Yeah.
And I also, this idea of this art exhibit, this photography,
Yeah.
this everything that you're doing. What? This is amazing.
Isn't it? Well, and it's something we're hoping to do it in such a way that folks could recreate it in other communities, that we
Mhm.
can create these spaces for really important and also intimate conversations
Yeah.
that may not feel, that may not be having, that we may not be having, if
Yeah.
that makes
Do you know what I love about this?
what?
Besides the thousand things that I could name. The thing that just came to
Oh, we're
mind for
both
me.
wearing red in our red tent here. We're in a red tent.
We are.
Okay, go on.
Connection, community. Yes. Um, I feel like therapists have this beautiful ability to just trust the process and go with it, whether it makes logical sense or not. Like, you connected with this other practitioner and you're like, man, where is my red tent? And their response was, well, let's build you one.
Yeah.
Like, you need a red tent.
Yes.
I will get you a red tent. Like, let's do this.
Yeah.
Like, there was no, like, "What are you talking about? Just get through it," or, like, "Just hunker down, you'll be fine." It was like,
Right.
"No, this is what you need, we're gonna make it happen."
Oh,
And I think that that is just such a beautiful concept that I experience almost on a weekly basis with some of my colleagues and friends who are in
wow.
this field where it's like, I'm going to say something that might be totally unhinged and illogical and isn't going to make any sense. And I believe, I don't know, that snakes need hats. I don't know. That was the first thing that came to mind. And my friends would be like, well, let's start making little hats then. If that's what you need right now to
Oh,
be grounded, like we're going to do it. That's, of course, not something I would actually say,
but
but you
that's
get the
community.
idea.
That's community.
Like, it doesn't matter what comes out of my mouth or what comes out of my friend's mouth. If
Right,
they need to be witnessed in that moment and not have anybody question it, I'm not going to question it. I'm going to
right.
trust the process and we're going to get a little unhinged together and we're going to come out the other side and decide what we actually want to do with that thought.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And to be really heard when you're expressing a need, like, it doesn't always need to be so grandiose as us building this red tent, but
Yeah.
yeah, to be heard when you express a need is everything.
Well, and you were able to build this beautiful thing that is going to span ideally communities. But it also could have just been her coming over in red, going, "Hey, let's
Exactly.
sit together and connect."
Exactly.
It still would have
Exactly.
been your red tent.
It exactly. This can be a red tent right here, and it's, I will say too, I my infinite gratitude to all the folks, all the readers, all the contributors to Pillow Talk, all the contributors to all of the Awfully Hilarious books along the way. I'm feeling very held and supported and in the metaphorical red tent as I go through this writing process, because as anyone who's ever written or shared a vulnerable story knows, it's really scary. It's really hard, and we always face criticism and we always find nasty reviews, but to know that there's an entire community really, really holding space for that, it makes it far less scary. And so I feel just very grateful and very lucky to have this whole community of folks alongside me.
Yeah, you're bringing everybody together, and I am, 1, so grateful that you randomly reached out to me.
Me too.
Was that 2 years ago now?
Well, now I wonder, was it really random? There are so many points of connection that we really needed to connect
Well,
on, but
we did.
somehow, here
But
we
you
are.
were the one that like you pulled that trigger and you reached out to me.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that it happened because now I get to be a part of this community
Oh,
and I get to support you while you support me and we lift each other up. And I
yes.
have not had anything but incredible acceptance and support from everyone that I have met
Mhm.
connected to you.
I'm so, so touched to hear that. That's my hope and dream with the project. And also, like, shout out to Alan recording the audiobook with Audavita there in Kansas City. Like, there he is with his audio recording equipment, intimately receiving our vulnerable stories. And I have to say, I felt so held by him, even though I was so shy to say, cock, cock. You might have to blur those out. I don't know how. I don't know.
Oh no, we're explicit on this
Okay.
podcast. You're good.
Explicit language. But just all the people involved, it's such a gift. But I'm so
Yeah.
grateful we've connected. It makes me think of this analogy I think of quite a lot in my wilderness therapy practice with True Nature. I bring in sometimes the idea of the fire ants in the Amazon. Are you familiar with that? What happens there?
Tell me.
So in the Amazon, there's regular flooding, the rivers rise and then the fire ants, if they were left alone, they'd wash down the river and they'd drown. But the fire ants somehow know to grab onto one another. They all grab onto one another as the rains come, and then they create a raft and they float up together. And that's how I feel about Awfully Hilarious. That's what I see for the world is if we can hang on and create a raft, there is a lot we could navigate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas alone, we sink. But together like that, we're so much more than the sum of the parts.
Uh, that's beautiful. I might use that actually. That
Oh,
is
feel free, please
absolutely
do. I mean,
beautiful.
feel free to like fact check.
I trust you. It's fine. Even if it isn't true, it's a great metaphor.
Is it beautiful?
We all need to just cling on to each other. Well, and it's so true. And reminding each other that we're here, that we're
Mhm,
present, that we're ready to grab hold,
mhm, mhm.
that the community isn't lost. I think we do so much scrolling these days.
Yeah.
There's such a difference between I'm just sitting here and I'm watching all these stories or I'm watching all these reels to face with somebody, even
Yeah.
over a computer. the energy is so different. And I feel so connected and grounded in this space in a way that I can't do just checking out your Instagram to see what you're up to.
Right. No, it's inherently totally different to be heard and to be witnessed and to have something that is unique to you. Like that an Instagram feed is not for you, right? It's just content being put out there. Whereas if we can be here with each other, yeah, there's a lot to be said for it. And it is quite beautiful that we can do that through means that are electronic, but that we can really show up in an intentional way in a coherent, regulated corner of using the technology to help us rather than being used by the technology.
My
That's for
God.
sure.
And someday I will see you in person and we
Oh
will
yeah, I
hug.
think I can't wait to get on planning like our Colorado pillow talk book tour. Like, let's make it happen. And please, please, could we blow up condoms to have as balloons at the event? Like, I think we need to hit up Boulder, Denver, maybe Golden.
I'll join for all of them. Are you kidding me? I
Okay.
pick you up at the airport. We are going to tour around. It's going to be great.
Okay, I'm there. I'm there.
Wonder if we can get approval to bring Jules just as my
We
little
have
mascot.
to. Please. Would you mind wearing like like a condom rose on her collar?
I mean, as long as it's on the collar, she'll be fine. She has very sensitive skin, this dog of mine, and she cannot wear anything. Like she doesn't even wear a harness because she like hates the feeling and just scratches at it.
The girl's got to be
So,
free.
yeah, she is a part of the no clothes community.
Amazing. Well, let's put a call out for a nudist bookshop open to dogs that has some capacity fall 2026 for our Pillow Talk tour.
And
I'll be
some
there.
of your Naropa alum, we will find somebody.
Okay, done. Actually, we've got a number of contributors from the Colorado area, so let's make it happen.
Yeah, I would love that. Oh my gosh. Okay, is there anything that we missed? I have like one funny thought that I'd like to add, but I want to make sure.
Bring it. Is there anything that we missed? Well, I just can't wait to hear all the other contributors sharing their stories about what it was like to tell their stories. Today on Instagram, Sarah Bird posted a picture of her grandmother reading Pillow Talk, and then her grandmother was sharing her experience of all the smut she's read over the years. And Sarah Bird was like, no, like plugging her ears, but also, isn't it awesome? So,
Yeah.
But I don't think I've got anything else to share except for what an absolute honor it is to be able to hold and be with your story and the stories of the other contributors. And I'm really grateful for the time to be here and share with you and with your listeners.
I'm so glad that we made this time as well. My last thought was the two men that I have spoken to on the production team side of everything. Is it Chris?
Yes.
And
the
Alan,
marketing.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So when we were meeting with Chris, I loved his opener of, I have learned more about sex and sexuality than I ever thought possible. This book was amazing. I did not know I needed to know this stuff.
Yes.
I feel more knowledge because of this. Like just his reaction of like, I didn't even know what I was getting into here. But honestly, this was great.
And this is a man who already did a lot of work on another sex anthology called Secret Sex. So we're doing something right if continue to broaden his horizons.
Yes. And then while we were in that meeting with Chris, we were joking about Alan, who helped out with the audiobook. And you're like, I wish somebody would ask him like what he thinks about this. So I asked him.
Do tell. We love Alan. Tell me everything.
He's amazing. Love him so much. So obviously I do this. So we had like, it only took me like 30 minutes to record. He was like, you clearly record a lot of things and read off scripts often. I'm like, I do. So we had a little bit of time at the end. So we were like chatting. I was like, so what is it like to help record an audiobook that's all about sex? And he was like, I mean, it's interesting. And then he was kind and sweet and was like, it's actually been really nice and did all the normal, like he's a good human being kind of things. But I just loved his reaction of like, interesting.
I have to say, and I mean, huge shout out to Alan Doherty at Audivita Studios. They've been amazing as part of this process and trauma informed and generous. And I have to say, I found him so gentle and generous in his professionalism. You know, we're speaking on really, really vulnerable subjects. Many of us literally from our closet just to get the sound quality right. So we're in the closet with Alan sharing in this way. And there's a way in which I felt like sharing one-on-one is somehow sometimes even more intimate than reading your story in front of a room of 30 people, because when there's just one person there, there's just something different to it. And
Yeah.
so I feel very lucky and grateful to everyone who's been part of helping produce
Yeah.
something so vulnerable, so courageous, so edgy.
Say this story or this book is powerful, but it also needs to be held gently.
Yeah. Yeah.
And anybody who chooses to listen to it on audiobook or pick up a hard copy, really truly do it at your own pace.
Hmm.
Take your time with it. And if something doesn't resonate, that's okay. Maybe
Hmm.
that story wasn't for you. But I assure you, there will be at least one story that is for you. It is. There's a huge spectrum out there. Okay.
Yeah. I just thought of one other thing I learned through this process I'd love to share if you're up
Of
for it.
course.
Is something so important to me I've realized over this last year as I've been working on a number of books actually. So we've got Pillow Talk and Foreplay, but then the associated audiobooks that go with the whole Awfully Hilarious series and my memoir, Where the F is My Red Tent, is how absolutely essential process is, not just product. That if we're aiming for a really important, seminal, trauma informed piece of work, we have to approach it in a really loving, trauma informed way. And that's something that I keep coming back to this year, is that there have been a lot of deadlines and there are a lot of different players involved, but I continue to come back to how critical it is to care for ourselves through the process, not just push for a product, if that makes sense. So this book it's a process, and I'm thinking about that just in life in general, not just about books, not just about writing, but with books, there's an industry, there are publishers, there are editors, and to if each step of the way we can really, really aim for a more gentle, a more loving, a more trauma informed approach, the better for all.
Well, and I'm happy to jump in on this question, but for those of us who are not practitioners and listening, what do you mean by trauma informed?
Oh, I'd love for you to field that one, please. Thanks for catching my jargon, and I'd take it from here.
Yeah, so there's so many different definitions of trauma, and I could talk about this all day, but I think my succinct way of talking about it is trauma informed is keeping in mind, in the back of your mind, whether you say it explicitly or not, that whoever you are speaking to or working with may have gone through something really difficult. And sometimes it's explicitly named, like in my story, I've gone through pain.
Mhm, mhm,
And so being able to hold space for that, no
mhm,
matter how you're interacting or what the conversation is about.
mm, mhm.
Because if you're going through it like, I don't care who this person is, I don't care what you've been through, and this is the deadline, and you have to do it. Like it's not going to feel as good as,
Right,
hey, I'm literally reading a story about how you never got to have a voice and you finally
right,
found one. How can I make this process work for you? What do
right,
you need to feel safe and comfortable here?
right.
Like trauma informed literally is just keeping in mind that there might be trauma
Mhm,
and to
mm,
hold that other person with respect and
right,
kindness and
right,
love.
right. That was a beautiful definition. I've never heard it put that way, Anastasia. It just makes me wanna learn so much more about your work. It's something I think about a lot as far as, like, what that looks like on the ground is really making space to listen, honor people's
Mhm.
voice, and not just the voice they speak with, but what's their body saying, like, is their nervous system really activated? Like, do we need to slow things down? And offering choice, always exploring consent and choice, and that's, yeah, it would be interesting to I'm new to the writing and publishing industry, but, obviously, this is something we talk a lot about in our work and in our sector, so interesting to see how that might start to percolate through other sectors and other parts of the world.
Yeah, I
If we
think it
could
would be
all learn about
amazing
that.
to see more professions become
Mhm.
trauma informed.
Yeah.
Where again, it's not like you have to sit there and go, all right, who has had trauma? Who do I
Right.
have to be
No.
more sensitive to? It's like, no,
Right.
literally, it's just holding this idea that there could be trauma
Right.
and the person you're interacting with might not feel safe or might
Right.
not be comfortable telling you that they might need
Right.
something,
Right.
but being able to approach it from this trauma informed
Mhm.
perspective so that
Mhm.
everybody feels safe anyway.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Thanks for that.
anything else or any big takeaways? Like if people just like skip to the end, too long didn't read, what do you hope people walk away with today?
Oh, I just hope that folks who want to have a chance to pick this up and laugh and feel seen and feel a moment of connection.
I love it. I love it. I'm going to be less meaningful with mine. I'm a published author.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
My
Yeah, you
childhood dream came true with this book.
are.
When I was in kindergarten, first grade, I wanted to be an author when I grew up. And this book
Oh,
literally made my dream come true.
okay, I'm about to cry. And I'm ready for your memoir. I'm ready for the next book. So
Make it happen. I put
rest
all
on
writing on
laurels for a
hold to
little.
focus on this. So now that this is done, I can write again on my own stuff. I did
Well,
not multitask the way you did.
first we'll do our book tour with condom balloons, and then you can hit the writing desk whenever it's done.
Yes. All right. I'm definitely going to have to work on that video of condom roses and condom balloons
Yes,
just for you.
I'm ready for it.
I don't even
Please.
care about the awfully hilarious social media. I'm doing it just for you, Heather.
Please don't.
I absolutely love Heather. She really embodies the idea of lifting each other up. She is kind, supportive, and ready to welcome anyone into the folds of her book. Literally, that's how I met her and why I'm an author now. I'm officially a published author because of this woman. It's amazing. And she says yes to life, and it makes me feel more motivated to say yes to life. So once again, you can pre-order Pillow Talk at tidewaterpress.ca or find the link in my Instagram bio at Insights With Us Podcast. You can ask your local bookstore or library to stock it, and you can find out more information at awfullyhilarious.com or on their socials at awfullyhilarious. You can find Heather at truenaturewilderness.therapy.com or on her socials at True Nature Wilderness Therapy. Remember, you are not alone. And as long as it is authentic for you, you're on the right path. Hopefully something we talked about today resonated with you. If it did, let yourself sit with that idea for a little while longer. If you have any questions for this podcast or any themes you'd like us to focus on in the future, send us a message on Instagram at Insights With Us Podcast or send us an email at insightswithus@gmail.com. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to hear more, please follow, like, or subscribe. If you want to support the continuation of this podcast, you can donate. To do so, find me, Anastasia Soroka, on buymeacoffee.com. You can also find Insights With Us on Substack for exclusive content, including videos and other writings about my insight journey. You can find digital downloads on my website, happymindwellness.com. So many resources for you. Thank you for being my adventure buddy. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you for creating insight with us.